Hi and welcome to the weekly boxing newscast. The main focus is going to be the Pacquiao-Bradley aftermath. I'm going to go over the fight and try and justify the decision. Just a quick roundup of the news. Alvarez is now taking on Victor Ortiz, it seems, on September 15th. The Kirkland fight is off because Kirkland's trainer Ann Wolf said that she advised him not to take the fight after having a similar surgery to what he had, and he needs more time. So now it looks like Ortiz versus Alvarez will be announced later on today by Golden Boy Promotions, and they're aiming for September 15th. One other piece of news, TMZ done a poll on was it a fix, the match between Pacquiao and Bradley, and as you can see, 94% from over 80,000 views agreed that it was a fix. And in one final piece of news, the most loved man in boxing today, Bob Arum, there's rumors going around that he is talking about preferring a fourth fight with Marquez on November 10th over the Bradley fight because he says it was injustice. I think it's just bullshit posturing. I think he just wants people to think that he was really outraged by the result and he had nothing to do with it. Also, I read a report that ticket brokers said that a lot of people wouldn't be interested in the Pacquiao-Bradley rematch. As you know, they had quite a hard time shifting the tickets for the first match, and now with the rematch and all the hoopla that went on, a lot of people very angry that they spent their money to watch a fight which one man clearly won, being awarded to another man in what they believe was just so Bob Arum can get even more money out of you. Ticket brokers, it doesn't look too good for Bob Arum because they're predicting that it won't sell a lot. But I still think it's bullshit posturing from Bob Arum. I think he will want Pacquiao to get the rematch and he will want Pacquiao to get the win so he can get his golden goose back. Now, let's talk about the actual main card itself. There was a fight that a lot of people are looking forward to, Jorge Arca versus Jesus Roaz. The first round looked like it was boiling up into something very special. Unfortunately, there was an accidental foul. Jorge got hit on the ear pretty hard after a low blow, and he went down. He couldn't get back up. Whilst it looked like he was over dramatizing it, I tend to agree with the HBO commentators. Jorge is hardly the kind of guy that he's a warrior. You would not expect him to go down and roll around unnecessarily. So, looking forward to the rematch. That was a big disappointment. Another one of the fights on the undercard was Mike Jones versus Randall Bailey. I remember reading a lot of websites saying that this was Jones's. Jones was just going to come out, win the belt, and that's all there was to it. It wasn't even going to be a competition. Randall Bailey, who was 42-7 going into this fight, having been knocked out 3 times as well. Everyone knew he had a lot of power, 37 knockouts in 42 fights. You need a lot of power at that weight class to get that kind of knockout percentage. So it was a very impressive record when it comes to knockouts, but everyone knew it was going to be mandatory for Mike Jones, who was 26-0 with 19 knockouts, to go through, claim the belt so he can go on to bigger and better fights. But this fight reminded me a lot of Carlos Mosa versus Vivian Harris a while back. Vivian Harris was the young, vicious, hungry fighter who was primed and he was going on to big things, and then he got beaten by someone who he really, really should have beaten easily. Going into the 10th round, even Bailey's corner admitted that Bailey had lost every round clearly. In the 10th round, Randall Bailey's a very hard puncher, put him down. Mike Jones managed to get back up, got caught with a vicious uppercut, went back down and lost his O, and shockingly enough, Randall Bailey won the fight. I'm sure if the fight would have gone another few rounds, there is really no way that Mike Jones would have lost the decision, even in Vegas, which is saying a lot. I think the best thing for Mike Jones would be to try and get a rematch against Bailey. It'll be very interesting to see where his career goes from here. I don't think he'll go down the Vivian Harris path of just declining after his first loss. He got caught with a lucky punch, as some people might call it, from a very powerful puncher. I don't think it was so much a lucky punch. He looked like he knew when he was throwing that punch. But point is, he got caught from a very powerful puncher. It could have happened to anyone in boxing, and when someone has Randall Bailey's knockout percentage and they catch you, you can go down and you're more than likely going to stay down. It'll be very interesting to see where they take Mike Jones from here, though, and what happens with his career. They're talking about Randall Bailey now fighting the undefeated British fighter, Brook, who recently beat Matthew Hatton. I would have loved to have seen Mike Jones versus Kell Brook, but I think Bailey versus Brook will be a good fight for Kell Brook at this stage in his career. I think Kell Brook has slightly better defense than Mike Jones and will probably be able to avoid his punches and nick it on a points decision. But let's just see where that one goes at the moment. The one fighter on this card that was very, very impressive to me was Gilmiro. He fought Tion Kennedy, who was 17-1 going into the fight. A lot of people know about Gilmiro's amateur record. There's a lot of different stories, but the guy's won 2 Olympic gold medals. He's had 400 amateur fights with 388 wins. This was his 10th pro fight. He won by sensational knockout. This was his 8th knockout in 10 fights. This kid looks amazing. He is an absolute pleasure to watch. His punches are very accurate, very flashy. He's got terrific speed in his punches, and I really can't wait to see where this kid goes. I mean, this guy is one to look out for. He is really going to be something special. And now we go on to the main event. Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley. Now, I posted a video straight after the fight saying how it was a disgrace. I've gone back and I've watched the fight again. As is the case many times when you're watching the fight on TV with the commentators, you know the commentators kind of, especially if the commentators are really bigging up one fighter and saying how the other fighter's doing terrible. If you watch it with the commentary off, you can sometimes see fights slightly different. Now, don't get me wrong. I clearly thought that Manny Pacquiao won the fight. I thought Pacquiao won the fight. There's no question about it. So before you start leaving messages, telling me how this video is a disgrace, what the objective of this video is for me to solely look at this video to try and understand how each round could have been scored for Bradley. I'm doing this video. I'm going to go through it round by round, and I'm going to talk about how I possibly think each one of these rounds could have been scored for Bradley and not for Pacquiao. And I'm going to do a round by round breakdown through every single one of the rounds. I'm going to give you the stats, the punch stats, tell you how the official judges scored it, how HBO scored it, and see if we can find some sort of justification for Timothy Bradley to have won the fight. I would like to say that off the bat, yep, I do think watching the fight, please, before you start leaving bad comments, go back and watch the fight, turn the volume off, because the HBO commentators were very, very, very much all egging each other on. Even Max Kellerman said after the fight that that he would go home and watch it with the view off. He said that maybe they got into a group link where each one of them was leading the other one on. So go back and watch it without any commentary. So let's start looking at this. Let's take it from round one, and I'm going to break each round one by one. Okay, round one is one of the few rounds that I actually scored to Bradley in that fight. I thought Bradley outworked him. He done a few nice flashy little combinations to the body. Manny landed a little at the end of the first round, but I don't think it was enough to take the round. That was one of the few rounds I scored 10-9 for Timothy Bradley. 2 of the 3 judges scored that first round for Manny Pacquiao, as did HBO. HBO also scored that first round for Manny Pacquiao, as they did every single round except round 11. Round 2, I thought the first minute and a half was clearly Timothy Bradley. Timothy Bradley seemed to have outworked him. Manny done very little compared to Bradley. At the end of the round as well, I scored the round originally for Pacquiao, but there is a case for Bradley. Bradley threw 150 punches, Manny Pacquiao threw 79, and there was only 4 more punches landed by Manny Pacquiao. So whilst I scored, and so did HBO score that round for Manny Pacquiao, it's not a travesty that the round went for Timothy Bradley, because as I said, when there's only 4 punches in it, and one fighter's throwing 150 and the other one's throwing 79, if the judges are looking for who was the busier fighter, you would have to go with Timothy Bradley. Again, 2 of the 3 judges scored this round for Timothy Bradley. Round 3, I would say Manny Pacquiao won that round. It was a close round. Manny finished stronger. He landed a couple of solid punches. All 3 judges scored the round for Manny Pacquiao. who landed 21 of 50 punches compared to 11 of 65 for Timothy Bradley. Quarter way through the fight, we're reaching the quarter way through the fight, and you can understand if someone is looking for work rate, they could be going with Timothy Bradley up until now, because Timothy Bradley had thrown 215 punches compared to 129 for Manny Pacquiao. In the round, Pacquiao landed 36 or 50 punches with a 39% connect ratio compared to only 17% connect ratio from Timothy Bradley. So you can understand when it comes to judging who's the busier fighter, you can go with Timothy Bradley up until now. At this stage of the fight, the end of round 3, 2 of the judges had it 29-28 Manny Pacquiao, with one judge having it for Timothy Bradley 29-28. To me, round 4 was one of the easier rounds to score in the fight. Manny Pacquiao really picked up the work rate. He looked really good for 2.5 minutes of that round. For the first time in the fight, he threw more punches than Bradley. All the judges scored round 4 to Timothy Bradley. To Manny Pacquiao. All the judges gave this round to Manny Pacquiao, who threw 81 punches compared to Bradley's 65. He landed more than double, landing 35 punches to Bradley's 15. His connect percentage was very high, 43% to 23% for Timothy Bradley. And this is the point where, for a few rounds, Bradley started to get caught up with the brawls. He seemed to let his boxing slip away from him a bit. And this is the round where he goes back into the corner and he tells his corner that his foot's broken. I've been in a gym, in a boxing gym, for many, many years. I've seen fighters damage their legs. I've seen, very, very rarely, but I've seen a broken foot once or twice. Let me tell you, if your foot's broken, you cannot go on fighting for another 8 rounds. It's just not possible to do. So whilst I believe Bradley was definitely injured, I think a broken foot was taken a little bit too far. That so-called broken foot happened with 36 seconds to go into the round. Bradley swiveled away from a punch, landed awkwardly on his right foot when he was backing off. A lot of people thought it came from a punch. It didn't. At this stage, all 3 judges had it 39-37 for Manny Pacquiao. HBO had it 40-36 for Manny Pacquiao. In this video, I could have given the first 2 rounds for Bradley and the next 2 rounds for Pacquiao. Again, I'm doing this video with the sole objective of trying to see how Bradley could have won each round. That is the objective of this video. So I'm not going in there. I've turned the commentary off. I'm watching it with no audio, so I'm just trying to find some sort of justification for the result of the fight. Okay, now round 5. Timothy Bradley, to me, in this round, maybe because of his foot, abandoned his boxing a little. There was a lot more swinging, wild punches. For me, this was definitely a Manny Pacquiao round. Even when I'm watching it, trying to find reasons for Timothy Bradley to win the round, I'd have to give it to Manny Pacquiao. Because if you look at the punch stats for the round, Pacquiao landed 25 out of 65. Bradley only landed 8 out of 68. So Bradley landed, he only outthrew Pacquiao by 3 punches. Bradley threw 68, Pacquiao threw 65. But Bradley only landed 8, Pacquiao landed 25. So Pacquiao outlanded him by more than double, only throwing less punches. The connect percentage was 45% for Pacquiao, 12% for Bradley. And yet, surprisingly enough, 2 of the judges scored the round for Timothy Bradley, and only 1 judge had it for Manny Pacquiao. I'd again have to score that round, even in this review, I'd have to score that round 10-9 for Manny Pacquiao, making it 47-48 to Manny Pacquiao. In round 6, Manny does literally nothing for the first minute of the round. He just walks around, lets Timothy throw a couple of, not very powerful punches, but he still looks a bit busier. This was the first signs that Pacquiao was starting to kind of incorporate, on nowhere near the same level, but kind of starting to incorporate the Bernard Hopkins aging tactic of just throwing just that little bit less punches at the beginning of the round. It's a well-used tactic. It's the first time I've seen in this fight Pacquiao really kind of take his foot off the pedal and let the other guy have, a minute or a minute and a half of each of some of the rounds. Obviously, you can't expect him to go full steam, especially with his leg power, but you got to believe if this was the same Pacquiao that fought Barrera, the fight wouldn't have gone the distance. To me, in round 6, as I said, Manny doesn't really do much. There Then he picks it up towards the end of the round. He backs Bradley up into a corner and he lands a pretty good combination. Bradley doesn't do much either. So to me, again, this was another Manny Pacquiao round, where, at the end of the round, Pacquiao landed 24 out of 58 punches. That's 41% connect rate compared to only 10 out of 48 for Timothy Bradley. This is one of the very rare rounds where Pacquiao threw more than Bradley. Not only did he throw more, he outlanded him double, and the judges made a good call. They gave every round to Manny Pacquiao. Every judge gave the round to Manny Pacquiao. So to me, another Pacquiao round. This makes it 58-56 going into round 7. First minute of round 7, again, as I said in the last round, this was all Bradley for the first minute. Manny not really doing much. And when they go toe-to-toe in this round a couple of times, Manny looks the stronger. Bradley's the one who, exchanges for a bit, and Bradley's always the one who backs off a bit. CompuBox shows that Manny Pacquiao landed 27 out of 77 punches, which is a 25% connect rate. Bradley landed less, threw less. He landed 11 of 67, which is only 16%. Amazingly enough, all 3 judges scored the round to Timothy Bradley. I can see how the round could have gone to Timothy Bradley if you if you turn the volume off and you focus. Okay, Bradley only landed 11 punches, but a lot of the flurries, they look flashy. If Pacquiao lands one clean shot, Bradley comes back with 5 wild swinging punches and they land on the arms, you got to understand, being in the arena, you don't get the same angle as you do on TV. Anyone who's been to a boxing match knows you don't get that same angle. Even if you're sitting ringside, if the other guy throws 5 punches to the other guy's one clear good punch, they might give it to the guy who threw the 5-punch combination, even if they were all caught on the gloves, because it looks more flashier. Now, before you tell me to shut the fuck up and say the stats say that there is no way that could have been a Bradley round, watch the round with the volume off. Yes, I do believe it was a Pacquiao round, but you can see how they could have had some sort of an argument to give it to Bradley. You can see that because, in all fairness, Bradley threw more combinations. And a lot of the exchanges, they look close. Manny spent the first minute of the round coasting. At this stage, CompuBox had Manny Pacquiao landing 158 or 410 punches. That's a 39% connect ratio, compared to Timothy Bradley's 80. It's a lot less connections out of 463 thrown punches. So he's been throwing more. He only had a 70% connect rate. But the judges at this stage are clearly being influenced on. They're clearly being influenced on the fighter that's throwing more. I mean, if you look throughout the fight, that's kind of been a tempo. Manny lands 2 terrific punches. Bradley comes back, showing heart, swings with 4 or 5 punches. Yeah, they don't land, but they look flashy to the judges. And when Pacquiao isn't moving out of the way, he's not ducking, he's just putting his gloves up and taking them on the gloves, you can understand it. Again, that's not how a boxing match should be scored. You shouldn't score a match based on the guy who threw a 5-punch combinations where they were all caught. But, I'm just trying to make some sort of understanding of what the judges were scoring and how they managed to score it like that. All of the 3 judges scored that round for Timothy Bradley, as I said. HBO still had it 70-63 every round for Manny Pacquiao. So we go into round 8. Manny does little. Everything he lands, Timothy Bradley comes back with a little flurry. Again, may not land flush, but it looks fancy to the judges. When one fighter throws 2, connects, the other guy comes back with 5. They may not connect, but you can understand where these judges were possibly coming from. I'm not saying it's right, it's not right, but to me, this is the only thing I can make sense of it. 2 of the 3 judges scored this round for Timothy Bradley, scored round 8 for Bradley. I could see how I could give it for Bradley as well, so we could go 76-76, so it's evened up on the scorecards right now. Manny Pacquiao lands 15 or 59 punches, 25%. Timothy Bradley lands 9 of 70 punches at 13%. So when you look at it, when it's thrown 11 more, if there was only 6 punches more landed by Pacquiao, again, I don't agree with how the judges scored it, but you can see how they could be seeing, oh, this guy's very busy. You know, he gets hit with a punch and he comes back with 5. They may not land. That's not how you should score a fight, but you could see that. So again, HBO has given every round so far to Pacquiao. The judges at this stage, I could see how I could have it 76-76 if I was really pushing for Bradley. The judge at this stage, 2 had it 76-76, and 1 judge had it 78-74 for Manny Pacquiao. Round 9. This was the best round of the fight. Manny seemed, they went toe-to-toe quite a bit. Manny seemed to land the cleaner, more effective shots. One of the few rounds where Bradley actually outlanded him. There was only 2 rounds, I believe, in the whole fight where Bradley outlanded Manny Pacquiao. There was only 2 rounds in the whole fight where Bradley outlanded Manny Pacquiao. In this round, Bradley outlanded him only by 1 punch. 2 of the judges gave it to Manny Pacquiao, and 1 gave it to Timothy Bradley. The CompuBox stats were 25 out of 94 for Pacquiao and 26 out of 78 for Bradley. Round 10 was a round that I originally scored for Timothy Bradley. When I said, my original video, you could possibly give him 2-3 rounds. This was a round where all the judges also scored for Timothy Bradley. They both landed equal amount of punches, 14, with Bradley throwing 10 more punches. He seemed busier in the round. He had a 22% connect ratio compared to Pacquiao's 26%. Manny just wasn't busy enough in that round. Bradley was catching him, moving. This was moving faster originally. This was a round that I thought that Timothy Bradley won, and this was the only round that HBO actually gave to Timothy Bradley as well. Okay, now we go into round 11. Round 11, at this stage, I've tried to justify having the fight level. So going into round 11, again, this was a close round actually. Again, the story seemed to be Bradley throwing more. Bradley threw 76 to Pacquiao's 66. Pacquiao landed 21, Bradley landed 15. A lot of the punches where Bradley landed, where they weren't counted as landed, Pacquiao didn't move out of the way. He didn't duck down a lot or have a lot of lateral movement moving out of the way. These were punches where Pacquiao was catching him on the glove on the side of his face. So you could see how an inexperienced judge or a judge who's looking for work rate would go with Bradley in this round. I thought this was a pretty close round, even watching it originally. Again, not how boxing should be scored, but you can make some sort of justification for it. HBO, another round that they gave to Manny Pacquiao. And we go into the final round. I could see how you could give round 11 to Timothy Bradley. So let's go into the final round. But just before we do, 2 of the 3 judges also gave round 11 to Timothy Bradley. Round 12. All 3 judges scored this round for Timothy Bradley. He landed 20 more. He threw 20 more and landed 5 less. So Pacquiao threw 68, Bradley threw 88. Pacquiao landed 20, Bradley landed 15. Again, it's got to come down to what were the judges looking at. They must have been looking at the work rate. When one fighter throws 68 and the other one throws 88, and there's only 5 landed in between them, the judges must have not been able to see how clear Bradley's punches were landing. They must, Pacquiao puts his hands up. He doesn't move out of the way, so the punches are catching him on the side of the gloves. Again, I've said this many of the rounds, but this is what seems to be happening. So with the judges scoring that round to Timothy Bradley, with all of the judges scoring it to Bradley, that meant that 2 of the judges at this stage had it 115-113 Bradley, with 1 judge having it 115-113 Pacquiao. HBO scored it 119-109. I don't think it was that one-sided. I mean, I think Pacquiao clearly won, but I don't think it was that one-sided. So I hope when you get a round-by-round breakdown, please, before you leave any comments telling me what an idiot I am, just go back and watch the fight. Go back and watch it without the volume, because the HBO commentators, they even say it themselves. They even say maybe we were egging each other on. Maybe we were all influencing each other and just getting worked up more and more throughout the fight on how one-sided it was. So please go ahead and watch this fight without the volume on. Try and look at it from Bradley's point of view, and maybe you'll see Maybe we'll see what they're getting at. So they're talking about a rematch now, due to take place on November 10th. If you look at the picture, Bradley's both of his feet are bandaged up, so depending on how bad the injury is, I mean, he's still saying November 10th, so maybe if they're out of the cast within the next month or two, he gets back to training on time, maybe the fight can still happen on November 10th. However, the problem is a lot of the ticket brokers, have turned around and warned Bob Arum, you know what? You had this much trouble selling the first fight and people really feel screwed. They're not going to buy the second fight. So now there's all this hoopla about Arum saying, well, maybe you should fight Marquez again next. I don't think it's going to happen. I just think Arum's trying to gain some publicity or just trying to make it out as if, he had nothing to do with the decision. After the fight, I give Max Kellerman a lot of credit because he said maybe we were egging each other on. Max Kellerman did say that someone he respects very, very much at ringside scored the fight for Timothy Bradley. He said the De La Hoya Shane Mosley 2 fight. In that fight, he said all the HBO commentators clearly had De La Hoya winning the fight. He says he was at ringside and he couldn't hear the commentators and he thought that Shane Mosley won the fight. A fight where the De La Hoya was trying to get the FBI involved into looking at, if there was a crooked decision. That's a fight that Max Kellerman, who I think is one of the best boxing journalists in the world, turned around and said that he was at ringside. Without the commentators, he thought that Shane Mosley won the fight. So please go back, watch the fight without the volume. I'm still pretty sure you'll think that Manny Pacquiao won the fight, but I'm also pretty sure that you'll think that it was a much closer fight than what HBO were making it out to be. Maybe you had it 10 rounds to 2. Maybe you watch it without the volume. You managed to find another round or 2 in there for Bradley to tighten it up. So please go ahead and watch the fight again without the volume on. The first time, as I said, I watched the fight, I gave 2-3 rounds maximum for Bradley. I think without the volume on, I could find another 1 or 2 rounds that could be close. And if I could find another 1 or 2 rounds that could be close, it tightens the fight up a lot more. As I said, I still think Pacquiao won the fight. I think the judges scored the fight based on Bradley coming back with combinations, even though he was missing most of them and Pacquiao was catching most of them. Pacquiao was landing the cleaner punches. Just shows that that's what the judges were looking for. They say in Vegas, judges look for fighters that come forward and throw punches. That's the only thing you could possibly think of. There's been many examples where well-respected people have completely disagreed on the results of a fight. However, when you put up a poll asking 30,000 people if the guy who lost the fight was actually the winner, and 94% say yes, Pacquiao won. I have no doubt in my mind that Pacquiao won the fight and that Bob Arum was involved in this and that this is an absolute disgrace of a decision. The whole point of this video was to let you see that somehow, without the volume on, that a few of the rounds could have been closer, a few of the rounds could have been scored either way, but still, not enough to make Manny Pacquiao lose the fight. Once again, please do leave comments underneath once you've had a chance to watch the fight without the volume on, and just let me know if you scored the fight closer, because HBO, in my mind, really had a bit too much of an impact when I watched it originally. So as always, when you watch it with the volume off, you always tend to score 1 or 2 rounds this way or that way. Just go ahead and watch it. Leave some comments below. Let me know what you think.